It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.
What's your favorite scary movie?
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Welcome back to Slashers in Sync. My name is MJ and this is
Marvelous.
So we're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine today. Okay, listen, I loved Phase 4 a lot more than other people, but even I have to say, this felt like a Marvel movie. It felt like I really don't want to say we're back, because how can I say that when we had bangers like Wakanda Forever? I liked Eternals a lot.
Yeah.
She didn't like it that much.
I had my issues with it.
You know, I loved WandaVision, Loki, Season 1. Like, those were all bangers. So it's like, it's hard for me to sit here and say the MCU is back, but it might be back.
I've said that a few times, and each time I've been, like, bit in the ass. But for the most part, yeah, I think I even told you, like, it felt like old MCU. It felt like just a whole new atmosphere. Well, not even new atmosphere. It just felt like a nice little throwback, if you will. They kept the charm of the Deadpool movies with this film as well, considering the fact that they had bought out, like Disney had bought out Fox as well.
Yeah.
So I know there was a lot of like anxiety over the film, but this movie handled everything very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some critiques of the film, and no film is perfect. I mean, this is a Marvel film at the end of the day. It's not like it's a Scorsese classic. It's not going to be a Christopher Nolan spectacle, but it's a Marvel film. It's what you would think a Marvel movie should be like and should feel like, because that's ultimately what they are. They're bringing the comics to life. They're bringing these characters to life. And if it makes you feel something, then I think Marvel succeeded in that perspective.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you know, we're just going to run down some of the plot points in the film, and then we're going to get into like our likes and dislikes of it. But I guess the first thing to talk about is the fact that it's breaking some records, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the first Marvel film since No Way Home to hit $1 billion, or it's about to hit $1 billion, one of the two.
Yeah.
And then I also believe yesterday we found out that it surpassed the Passion of Christ.
Yeah.
That held the record for like the highest grossing domestic box office R-rated film of all time. And now this is the highest R-rated film of all time domestically. Yep. So the Passion of the Christ, I had no idea that was holding the record.
Yeah, it did.
Because am I not wrong in thinking that I thought John Wick might have had more money than that, but I guess I was wrong, because John Wick's rated R, right?
John Wick is rated R. John Wick does have a big following, but you also need to keep in mind not everybody likes those kind of action films. Yeah, the theaters were full, but not everybody likes them. People will go to a theater for God, if you will.
Also, yeah, I have to make John Wick probably comes out pretty popular in other countries, I would think, too, because of the action. So and we're talking domestically, just the U.S. So, yeah, that makes sense.
With the amount of marketing and the amount of like push that Marvel had put, that Disney had put behind this film, that like even Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were like going out and doing interviews, like insane amount of interviews prior to this movie coming out.
I think it had a Super Bowl commercial too.
It had Super Bowl commercials. I mean, merch was already coming out ever since the movie came out. I see more and more collabs of merch of the movie coming out. So it's just, they did a good job. They did a very, very good job. The film itself had a lot of character and it had a lot of charisma behind it. Despite me falling asleep during the second watching.
You did fall asleep during the second watching, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was tired. I was very tired, but it wasn't because I was bored. It was just because I was tired.
Yeah.
And that was MJ's first time watching it, so I feel bad falling asleep during his first watch. But anyway, I digress.
It's all good, man. I watched it alone.
I was there. Literally there.
Asleep. I'm just
maybe,
kidding.
like,
We had a
20 minutes.
pretty good showing, and it was a whole week later.
It was a whole week later
at RPX, which is a higher paying tickets than standard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for those of you who don't know, the reason why MJ and I can go watch movies so much is because we have the Regal Pass. This is not a plug-in whatsoever. They have not paid us. They have not sponsored us. So pay me, Regal.
I mean,
but anyway,
go for it. We go so many times.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I went opening night. Worst mistake of my life. Because the fucking mall that we go to was a shit show, a horde house. I swear it was busier than fucking Disneyland during the summer. It was crazy. But when I got into the theater and I sat down and I watched the film, I loved every single moment. My first experience was through Screen X. Sorry, guys. Apologies. I was just talking about how sensitive this was earlier, too.
I can see it in the audio waveform too. See the little line there?
I'm sorry.
Someone in their car. My ear.
That's where you come and you edit. You cut it out. You cut that split
I'll
second
try
out.
and silence it, yeah.
Please do. I'm sorry.
Marva's fucking y'all up, man. It's about to get anxiety.
Yeah, my hands are all the way out now like a fucking zombie. Anyway, first experience was through Screen X. Second experience was through RPX. And it was literally a week later after release. And the theater was still very much full. I don't know. Like, the crowd was still reacting the same way as opening night. I'm sure people have seen the movie through and through. People were still picking up the merch from the theaters as well. It carried the weight for sure.
Yeah. No, it was a very fun experience a week later. I was kind of nervous about how filled the theater was going to be, but it ended up being like a pretty packed space. And I got to, hear good reactions from people who enjoy Marvel and the film. I was afraid I was going to lose out on that, but no, I didn't.
Yeah, which was surprising because even when watching Endgame for the second time or third time, people weren't reacting the way that they were during my first watch. But this was, I think, the second movie in my entire life where the crowd was still reacting like how they were opening night.
Yeah, so I think same for me as well with the second film. I think the first one was Infinity War, I think.
Mine was actually Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Funny enough, I think our Scream 6 rewatch actually had more people reacting to it than our first one in theaters.
Yeah, that's also true.
So that was interesting.
But I mean, more so equivalent to opening night, not necessarily more or less.
But anyway, so the film starts off with a very classic Deadpool fourth wall break. Probably one of my favorite intros to a Marvel film.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it does the whole, you wonder how I got here. Let me take you back type of intro. But it's not as apparent or in your face.
Right.
Which I like a lot. And I like the intro a lot. Seeing you, and hearing you react during the opening scene was also phenomenal. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I had did we take our mask off or did we have our mask?
No, you kept it on.
Yeah.
We both kept it on. I think just because the theater was so packed and I kept hearing people sneeze and cough. I was like... Oh, yeah, especially with the flirt variant going around. Whoever's naming these variants, by the way, please stop. There's no point.
But I think what set the tone for me was just the fact that it took place in an icy area. Because we don't really get too many snow films in Marvel, and it was cool to kind of see them do it again. And
you don't see seasons in Marvel.
Seasons, yeah. It's usually always just gray or
green.
Yeah.
That's it. Gray or green.
I think that's what made Hawkeye and No Way Home kind of stand out a little bit with the snow scenes towards the end.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Hawkeye also ended with Christmas in NYC. And No Way Home also kind of bled the two together, which then brings in question a whole another story plot line. But anyway, we're here on Deadpool Wolverine.
Kingpin, anyways. I'm sorry. I love Kingpin.
I know. I do too. But I didn't even say his name.
But anyway, so the scene is dope in that regard. The action, it was a breath of fresh air to finally get some cool hand-to-hand again. Deadpool was just murking motherfuckers. And the people he was murking, by the way, and I'm going to say this right now. If y'all haven't caught on, I'll put it in the title. Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, very much.
Spoilers. Sorry about that. He's murking motherfuckers, and the people he's murking are the TVA that we were introduced to in Loki. The television show. So that was dope.
I'm going to also add on to this. He wasn't just killing people with his normal weapons. He was using the remains of Wolverine.
Yes.
And I thought only his blades, his little claws come out that are made out of that material.
Nah, it's his whole body. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
And it was the Logan that died in Logan. By the way.
Yeah. So this Logan had a very honorable death, and then I watched Deadpool throw his remains around everywhere and use them as weapons. Mind you, first watch and second watch, I had the same reactions to every single fucking scene. First watch was obviously a little bit more dramatic, but I didn't have MJ with me. I'm like reliving all the scenes in my head right now. I'm not gonna lie. It was over the top, but not in a way where I sat back and I'm like, all right, no. It very much was Deadpool over the top.
For the people who are listening to this and not watching this video, her reaction was priceless. That's why if you're listening on Spotify and you're not subscribed to our YouTube, go check it out.
Yes,
we got the video versions of not every episode, but
almost every episode.
Well, the more recent ones. We can't do videos for the ones that we already recorded, obviously. But for our most recent uploads, we have them in video form. And yeah, we're trying out something new. So go subscribe and check us out on /InSync or /InSync on YouTube.
Yeah.
Links down below everywhere. You can find us.
All
our
the plugins.
website, everything. Yeah. So
we're also probably going to try different places in our apartment complex. So let us know what you like.
Yeah.
And we'll stick to it.
Casting couch.
Shut up. Even though our couch is black, but it's not leather. It's velvet.
I can't believe you know what casting couch is.
Bro, everybody knows what a fucking casting couch is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Okay. Anyway, back on track. Back on track. So.
Did you say blacked?
Get out. Door's right there. You can get out. You can get the fuck out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right, let me see this.
No, Deadpool's just killing people, and then he does a thing. He does a thing where he straps on Logan's forearms.
Yes.
And claws come out, and then...
Which was hilarious. I don't know how that worked, but
I don't know how that worked either, because man has no ligaments for this to work. But I also know Deadpool had a lot of, like, rope or something wrapped around the...
I think so, yeah.
Bones, so I guess it's not too far-fetched.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a classic freeze. Deadpool's voiceover comes through, or Wade. And we get a nice little flashback of what led Wade from the last time we saw him to today.
So I actually have to ask this question.
Uh-huh.
How did Deadpool, before meeting the TVA, get to Earth 616?
Remember he had a big watch? He, like, fucked around with it? Because the TVA later on in the film said, like, oh, this isn't your first time meddling around with time. And he just kind of
That's right. I forgot about the last movie. That's right. Deadpool
yeah, it's a big old...
Deadpool 2, yeah.
A big old watch. So I guess the TVA coming into play and the whole time travel thing isn't too far-fetched either.
Yeah. So he goes and we see the beginning of this flashback. He has the conversation with Happy, and he basically wants to become an Avenger.
Yep.
He tells them that you don't need to become an Avenger. Like, you don't need it. The people need you. That's what makes you an Avenger.
Yeah, Happy turns him down, essentially.
Yeah.
Deadpool's main reason behind wanting to become an Avenger to begin with is that he needs it. And then we come to find out he needs it because his girlfriend wants him to do something with his gifts.
Yeah. Like, be something more.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
To be more, to do more.
And ultimately that ends with him getting turned down, like Marvelous said. And then that's where we get back to the regular Deadpool universe. And that's where he's hanging out with the people that he's friends with, the woman that he lives with now, which is a blind woman.
The same blind woman that he was living with, I think, in either movie 1 or movie 2. He calls he calls her the old owl, or the blind owl, which I find hilarious.
And that is just where we get like a lot of fun stuff, like them talking about cocaine and how Kevin Feige doesn't allow that in Marvel, and all sorts of stuff like that. Little like shenanigans that you would expect from Ryan Reynolds portraying as Wade. So
yes, I guess Ryan Reynolds or Wade or Deadpool also, before he, like, kind of rewinding back, even calls out Logan by Hugh in one scene, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's not always, like, constant, like, in your face looking in the camera, fourth wall breaking. It's also just kind of, like, small comments that you pick up on throughout the film that I feel like put the cherry on top for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. But all of that then leads into him having a birthday party thrown for him, right, by his friends, and we see him and his girl, but it's not his girl anymore.
Nope.
She's doing her own thing. We get a flashback of that later on,
Yep.
of how they broke up. And all of that stuff just ultimately kind of paints the picture for Wade right now and what his life is. He isn't Deadpool anymore.
Nope.
He's working as a car salesman.
Drive Max.
Drive Max.
I see you.
Yeah. And ultimately, I keep saying ultimately, like, I gotta get that on the vocabulary. Then the TVA shows up at his birthday party.
Yep. They knock on his door. Wade comes out. He seems to kind of have an idea of who it is, which I find really interesting. But this TVA seems a little bit fed up. And this is before the decimating and
How much you want
defacing of Logan's grave.
How much do you want to bet that if they had went along with the pegging stuff, it actually would have happened?
The pegging stuff?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
The whole 5-minute pegging conversation they had.
Oh,
Did you just like black that out or
yeah.
what?
Yeah, I did. I don't know.
I think it would have really happened. I think Wade's freaky like that.
Probably, because he always says he wants to feel something. That's one thing to feel, for sure. Especially with those, like,
Plus,
pruners.
I'm pretty sure he's not bisexual, but he's
very open.
What's the other word for like anyone that will fuck anything?
Pansexual?
Yeah, I think that he's pansexual in the comics actually. Like in the newer editions, like he'll fuck anything supposedly.
Yeah.
And he'll be fucked by anything.
Yeah. He'll take it. He'll give it.
That's what I'm trying to say, bro. If they went along with that pegging shit, they probably would have went around the corner and then it would have happened, man.
Yeah, it's pretty funny to hear Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds just kind of like fuck around and just talk about using the pruning sticks as pegging tools or just tools to just have a full-on orgy. But that was pretty funny.
You did black that out, though. That's funny.
I did. I thought about it. I was like, what pegging? When I was like, there was one where he had the blades in the two TVA guards, hands in one mouth and a hand in somebody's ass, and he was just kind of like doing back and forth tugs. And then you have the scene where the TVA shows up at his birthday party and he makes the jokes about the pegs and is leaning up against the wall. But I think one of the TVA members...
How did you remember all of that, but not the little conversation in the hallway?
Because I don't need to see Deadpool get pegged. He can go and get pegged and fucking be fucked all he wants, but I don't need to see it.
I mean, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's also understandable as to why he's such a horny fuck, because he got burned and is still alive, and I'm sure not all body parts are exactly the same.
True.
I don't know, unless somehow his penis miraculously stayed the same.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of his body.
And we're really like
going into the details.
Yeah. So all right. Anyways,
back on track.
So TVA comes. They knock him out pretty quickly. Funny enough, they actually fuck up his toupee and like tear it off.
They tear off his toupee that he stapled on. Yeah. He stapled on his toupee, guys. He had like little frills of hair stuck onto his head with his little stapler. And it wasn't like a normal stapler. It looked like an industrial stapler.
Yeah. He then ends up at the TVA. That's where we meet Paradox.
We meet Mr. Paradox.
Yeah. And he's an agent who is trying to... I guess this comes a little bit later, but I'll just go ahead and say it now. He's not particularly a good agent.
Nope.
He seems to not be going along with the new rules that were established in Loki season 2 with the preserving of the universes and not wiping them out and everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he wants to get rid of Wade's universe because his anchor being is dead.
Which then causes the slow decay of a certain timeline. And said anchor being is Logan, of all people. I don't mean it in a bad way either, but it's just more so in the sense of like, it's pretty ironic that since he's passed, and the way that Mr. Paradox almost explains it is that once the anchor being dies, the timeline dies off on its own, but it takes a few thousand years. And the quote unquote new version of the TVA lets this timeline just kind of go on, and he needs to sit there and babysit. But Paradox doesn't want to do that. He wants to go back to the old TVA, or if anything, show the TVA itself how they could really work, where he starts formulating on creating what's called a Time Ripper. And he recruits Deadpool under the rouge that he is not necessarily going to be part of the Avengers, but he's going to have a role as big as the Avengers, which I guess is kind of true.
We see the clip that really, I guess, puts that emotion ahead is when Deadpool sees Thor crying for him.
Yeah, Thor
Or
crying
over
for him.
So,
While Deadpool's just laying there going like this.
So we have to imagine that scene's probably going to happen in
I can't wait.
one of the Avenger films, I guess. So,
I can't wait for it to come into the picture, for it to come to fruition, because I will sit there and be like, look!
Yeah.
That's an obvious Easter egg that we found.
Because he didn't specify that it was a different Deadpool. He didn't specify it was a variant. He just said, oh, that's in the future.
Yep.
So we know what's going to happen to this Deadpool.
Yeah.
So,
Secret Wars probably, if we're being completely honest. But
I cannot wait for Thor and Deadpool's interactions.
Especially the kind of Thor that we got with Love and Thunder, because he was a character and a half. I'm just going to leave it at that.
And he can't kill Deadpool, so it's going to be... That's like what brings out the best in Thor, is like when he's with somebody that he can't hurt, like Hulk or something, or somebody like that.
Yeah, somebody that he doesn't need to be afraid of holding back for.
Yeah.
He can just do what he wants.
But as far as the people who are wondering, the Anchor Beam isn't the same thing as a canon event.
No.
Like in
Spider-Verse.
It is not. Because in Spider-Verse, a canon event is an event that kind of sets the motion for like that character in that universe. Right?
Well, sort of. It's an event that happens to a character that kind of sets them in motion, but at the same time, the way that they made it seem, or at least the way that I perceived it, is that a canon event is something that a certain entity or being cannot avoid no matter what timeline you're in. So Gwen had to experience losing Peter, just like how Peter had to experience losing his uncle, where Miguel also had to experience losing his younger sister. Like, you have a significant loss in the family. That's the canon event. Another canon event is that all of them get bit by spiders. Now, whether it's spiders of their universe or another universe, doesn't really matter. They get bit by a spider and have spider-like powers. They don't have the best relationships with their standing parents. I think the only one who's a slight outlier is Miles, but even Miles doesn't necessarily have the best relationship with his father. He has a better relationship with his mother. So those are like set canon events. An Anchor Being is somebody who keeps that timeline alive or open, or has a significant amount of effect over the timeline, if you will. So the way that Paradox described it is that once the Anchor Being passes, that certain timeline will then decay on its own naturally.
Which supposedly this might actually add credence to the rumor that Miguel's wrong in Spider-Verse, and that causing a canon event not to happen doesn't bring about the collapse of the universe. Because some people were thinking that what if Miguel's wrong and that's not what destroyed his universe? Yeah. That it may just be something else.
Yeah.
So that, like, now us knowing about the Anchor Beams, they could work that in to where maybe his universe died over something else. I don't know if they'll call it Anchor Beam or if they'll tie it into Marvel directly, even though we do know that Spider-Verse, even though it's a Sony project, does mention a lot of what happens in the MCU. It will be interesting to see that going forward, but now that we know about the Anchor Beams, there may be something to that rumor that Miguel is wrong, and that might be part of the next story. You know? So
I mean, I don't think the canon event being altered led to his timeline dying off. I never really thought that.
A lot of people, he says straight up that that's what the issue is. That once you interrupt the canon event, our universe is going to collapse. Like, and he was telling Miguel he cannot go save his father. Or, like, he cannot go save. Like, it has to happen, and I know that because my universe died. Because I did it. But the fans were saying that he may be wrong, that it may be something else. You know? It
probably was something else, or if anything, like, the timeline itself was getting pruned. Because if you really want to pick the details, if you will, Miles' uncle passing, I feel like, was his more significant, like, loss than his father passing, if you will. Because his
father hasn't died yet.
No, his father hasn't died, but his uncle did.
Yeah.
But
I think his father is the big thing, right? That's going to be his canon event, supposedly?
That's how they were painting it out to be. Because I know Peter, or like this character of Spider-Man or Spider-Woman, experiences a lot of loss to begin with. I don't know Miles' story as well as you do. I do know Peter's and Gwen's a whole lot better. I won't say better than you, but I do know it better than Miles' story. But, I mean, I don't think preventing a canon event causes a timeline to completely destroy or fall into itself. I feel like it needs to be a culmination of things. Maybe Miguel stopping a canon event from happening pushed his timeline over the edge, but I don't think that was just the catalyst.
Yeah, so it may come into play in the next film, and that may be like one of the things that they use against Miguel to kind of prove that, like, hey man, like, you gotta, like, relax with this shit, you know? Like, but ultimately, anyways, ultimately, I keep saying that word.
Tangent.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep saying that. But ADHD, man.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm
gonna just like speed run this. So that ends up happening with the TVA. He gets a new suit. He joins them. He finds out that that's gonna happen. The whole Time Ripper thing. He doesn't want that to happen. So he thinks the best thing to do is to go get a Logan, bring him back, and put him in his universe, and that'll save it. He does that. Doesn't work. But I don't want to skip over the insane montage that we got of him going from Logan to Logan. We got to see what a 5-foot Logan would look like. Comic accurate.
We got to see a 5-foot comic accurate 5-foot Logan. We got to see an 80s Logan.
Yeah.
We got to see a foreign looking Logan. Or foreign environment Logan. We saw a lot, and we just saw Deadpool just like falling through that classic orange, like glass looking frame, and the timelines just jumping from timeline to timeline.
We got Henry Cavill.
We got Henry Cavill as Logan, which was fucking hilarious.
The Calverine.
This man was meant for a superhero role. I'm just going to leave it at that. But anyway.
He actually looked good as Wolverine. Like, I'm not, especially due to the fact that he's like an inch or two shorter than Logan.
Yeah.
Or not Logan. Hugh Jackman. So I can like see that being like a thing in the future. It probably won't be just due to the cameo. But if it were to happen, I wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be upset either, because we all know Henry Cavill. Like, yeah, he's a good Superman, but like I can also see him outside of that character. He was also The Witcher. Like, he can paint these characters very, very well. Because in all honesty, my first watch, I didn't recognize that it was Henry Cavill at all. It was the second watch where I sat back and I was like, wait a minute, I know that jawline. I know the little slight like teeth.
Yeah.
Let me look at his expression more. Don't get lost in like the facial hair, like the hair itself. And that's when it clicked. And I think you said, "Oh my God, that's Henry Cavill." And I was like, "I'm not seeing things. Great."
I was like, you wasn't sure it was him either when you first watched it.
I wasn't sure. No, I mean, mind you, I also had smoked a bit before I watched the film, so I was very much like enveloped into what was happening, not necessarily picking out the details.
Well, I mean, he does hit a Calverine, but yours probably, yeah.
That went over my head. I said I was looking over the details. That went over my head.
But yeah, I think just him being built, him looking stocky, that may help more if he ever were to be in the role. He's probably not, but if he were, it would definitely help fill out that suit. Because I think that's the one issue with Hugh Jackman, is even though he's built, he's very slender. He doesn't have like that stocky look to him.
Yeah, he doesn't get chunky. He gets
cut and chiseled.
Don't worry, you see a lot of it.
Yeah.
For those of you who are thirsting after Hugh.
Yeah, I'm thirsty.
He's nice to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he brings finally we get to a Logan, and it's a Logan that's an absolute drunk. The bartenders and the people there seem to think he's a fuck up, and
they don't even want to talk to him.
They even make jokes about him too. So it's
which is something that I never really thought I would see a Wolverine on screen go through. Yeah,
let someone just kind of not bully him around, but just kind of like talk shit to him, and they get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he ends up bringing that Logan back. We then find out from Paradox that's the worst absolute Logan that you can bring to ever fill the shoes of this, even if you could replace an anchor beam, but you can't. And that pisses Logan off. And we get to hear a little bit about what happened with Deadpool and everything. And then Deadpool, I think, what happens here? I think they prune him, right?
So
they prune him, but I forget
Deadpool and Wolverine.
I forget what leads to him pruning Deadpool so quickly, because I know Wolverine sticks around long enough to say, "Where'd you go? Like, where'd you send him?"
Yeah, I know Deadpool was just kind of like going on his rant. I think he was essentially saying like, "Look, this is the best looking one. How could he be the worst?" Because we don't know exactly why this Wolverine is the worst kind of Wolverine out there. Not yet, anyway. All we know is that he's a constant drunk, and that nobody in his universe really respects him or like thinks that highly of him at all. And then Paradox ends up pruning him. Oh, no. Deadpool finds out that what Paradox is running is completely against the TVA's actions right now. That's why. Because he even pulled the whole, I have a black belt in Karen, I'm going to go upstairs and talk to management. Then that's when Paradox prunes him. Wolverine, having downed a whole bottle of tequila, drunk as fuck, decides to look over to Paradox and say what you do to him, and that's where the two of them fall into the void.
And once we hit the void, that's when and I think we're just gonna continue from our likes and dislikes here because there's just too much to really like, try and break down, especially with all the cameos.
Yeah.
So they hit the void, and then the story from here is they have to get out of the void, and they come across a character named Cassandra, and we'll get into that in a second. But they have to pretty much outsmart Cassandra, get out of there, head back so they can save Wolverine's universe, even though that's not specifically what's going to happen. It was more of an educated wish, if you will.
Yeah, Deadpool essentially got Wolverine on board by saying, hey, the TVA can go back and fix your universe. While Deadpool mainly just wanted Logan to, this version of Logan, or Wolverine anyway, to become the new anchor being. So in order to get him on board to even try and save his universe or stop Paradox from even using the Time Ripper at the very least, so this way Deadpool can watch his loved ones die whenever they can or whenever they want to. That's how he gets Wolverine on board. But prior to all this, Wolverine and Deadpool have a fantastic fight.
Yeah. So let's get into our likes and dislikes. So earlier in this episode, I mentioned that MCU is back. What I meant by that is, as much of a fan as I was of Miss Marvel, Wakanda Forever, Eternals, WandaVision, and I can list them. I don't hate everything in Phase 4 like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Even Multiverse of Madness, I actually like that movie.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
A fair bit. So I think seeing Deadpool and Wolverine square off, you have Hell's Bells playing in the background.
With the Search 20th Century sign broken off in the background too. That
felt like the most Marvel that I felt in a long time. It felt like when we saw Hulk for the first time interact with Thor, or like fight Thor. It felt like when Thanos and Tony Stark interacted for the first time. Like it felt very much like a Marvel thing. And I want to make sure I'm not trying to throw shade at any of those other projects. It's hard for a show like Ms. Marvel, which is completely brand new. It's hard for a show like Moon Knight that's completely brand new. It's hard for those type of shows or those films to portray and capitalize on nostalgia because there's not really nostalgia there. With these characters, Deadpool's already been in 2 films. With Wolverine, he's been around for like 25 years. It's a
long time.
You're really capitalizing on that nostalgia. You're capitalizing on the feeling that these characters portray. And let's keep it real, Hugh Jackman is probably one of the biggest superhero portrayals in a long time. Yeah. You know, he's right up there with like Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. He's up there with Chris Evans, Captain America. Like he's up there. So to see him on screen in a fight scene with Deadpool, it very much felt like the MCU was back. And it was the most MCU-esque fight that I have seen in a while. And it was such a thing to enjoy in theaters.
Yeah. I feel like that's also one of the reasons why this movie is doing so well is because it's not a new idea. It's working with new ideas, but with characters that we have a lot of attachment to.
Yes.
A lot of the Phase 4 has built up to this moment. So I can't really say like, oh, Phase 4 was, you can skip that. You don't have to watch it or you don't have to like pay any regard to it. Just like you, I don't view Phase 4 as being a bad phase, if you will. Is it my favorite? No. Have I sat back and watched it like the other phases? Definitely not. Well, like I might in the future if I find enough time to do it, or if I like really want to get back into Marvel and watch everything in chronological order, which is something I actually really want to do.
Yeah.
But like overall, it was a really good film. That fight scene had me on the edge of my seat the first time, and even the second time, I still got chills hearing Hell's Bells starting to like interluding into the film. Seeing the two of them get ready for that fight, almost like an old Western, but then Deadpool takes the first shot literally with his guns, and then Wolverine is like crawling and like running.
He's fighting like an animal, dude. Like that was dope.
He actually moves like a Wolverine or like a four-legged creature towards Deadpool and is just like mauling away at him.
It reminded me a lot of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man fighting like a spider, like crawling all over Croc. Like that felt very cool. I can only imagine that's probably what Wolverine fights like in the comics. Like it was so dope to see that, and
it was amazing. I loved it. The one thing that could really interrupt it was like another character that that we kind of know and that carried the weight, if you will, where we see a hooded figure come up who has the voice of Captain America, who's carrying himself like Captain America, and lo and behold, it's Chris Evans. But when the hood comes down and the crew of Cassandra pulls up to Deadpool and Wolverine, we come to find out it's actually Johnny from the Fantastic Four film.
Yeah, Johnny Storm.
Johnny Storm.
So I like this
Which
scene.
I loved, because at first I thought it was Cap as well, or another variant of Cap. And I was like, fuck, man. Here we go with like one of my favorite characters with a variant version of himself. How is he going to carry himself?
Did a part of you think we were going to see... So it was a very brief scene, but at one point we did get Thor versus Iron Man versus Cap.
Yeah.
In the first Avengers film.
Yeah.
For a split second, did you think we were gonna get, like, when you thought it was Cap still, did you think we were gonna get to see Cap versus Wolverine versus Deadpool?
I thought Cap was definitely gonna fight Wolverine for sure, because this version of Wolverine literally gave no fucks and seemed to actually want to die. So coming across yet another character who is very difficult to beat, very difficult to kill, and is very strong.
Right? Yeah.
I'm sure Wolverine would have seen it as a challenge. I don't think Deadpool would have really chimed into the fight, because he just seems to kind of like melt and fangirl over the Avengers altogether. Because he straight up was like sucking Chris's dick up until he found out it was Johnny and not Cap.
Yeah, and I feel like because we didn't get to see a Wolverine versus Captain America fight in this movie, which it very well could have happened, they're probably saving that moment for later on. So that's going to be fun. But
keep it down there.
Yeah.
It's fine. I liked this. I really did. Because I liked being caught off guard. I'm like, wait a minute. There's no way. And then all of a sudden, I flame on. Dude. It brought so many memories. MJ, so many fucking memories.
You're forgetting what made that scene so fucking wonderful. It's Deadpool acting like a little girl, jumping up and down. He's gonna say it. Yeah. Avengers, flame on. What? Yeah. He just flew into the sky. And he looked good, by the way.
He did.
As Johnny Storm, man.
He did.
It looked really good seeing that.
They did a
again.
very good job. Like seeing his scruff, seeing him carrying himself in like a very cocky ass manner. Because in all honesty, I love Goody Two Shoes Chris Evans, but seeing him playing that jerk, like sarcastic piece of shit asshole character,
it was really good.
Love it.
He ultimately gets taken out by, and I forget the guy's name because they mentioned the name later, but I think it's Pyro. So I think he's one of the former X-Men. He's able to absorb fire, obviously, because he's Pyro. So he's able to pretty much be the Folly to Johnny, takes him out in a very ugly way, crashes bad.
Multiple different ways.
We get another little nostalgic moment where it's Sabretooth makes his return.
Sabretooth is in that entourage that comes and greets the trio.
And he gets to face off against Wolverine. I kind of would have liked the fight to be a little bit longer, but at the same time, I can't remember fully if because I think him and Wolverine fought for a decent amount of time, and it was kind of even back in the first X-Men film. But then again, this is a different Wolverine, though.
This is a different Wolverine. So, I didn't watch those X-Men films, so I don't know for sure, but I feel like that in and of itself shows the power level between the two Wolverines, if you will. Because if the Wolverine, and if it's the same Sabretooth, because I don't know, I haven't watched the films, then that means that the previous Wolverine probably wasn't as strong. Either that or actually gave a few fucks and held back, while this Wolverine he just seemed bloodthirsty at one point. Whenever he wasn't drunk, he was ready to fight, and he was rather bloodthirsty at it as well.
It wouldn't be our first time seeing the difference in power levels amongst the characters, because it was mentioned...
Especially in like different timelines.
Yeah, it was mentioned in Multiverse of Madness that the Wanda, the Scarlet Witch that went into the Illuminati timeline, is stronger than that Wanda that was there. Yeah. So that's very interesting. It almost made it seem like if she didn't take over that version of Wanda, that Wanda on her own without the Scarlet Witch influence in her wouldn't be able to kill the Illuminati the way she did. Mm-hmm. So that Scarlet Witch is just insane, the one from our universe. I guess. She was also using that dead book too, so she's probably like overpowered. But we've seen what Marv was talking about before, where the characters are different strengths of different timelines. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, this Sabretooth gets taken out quick as fuck. Wolverine and Deadpool both get subdued pretty quickly, and they get captured alongside Johnny Storm, and they're heading towards Cassandra. Now, Cassandra, I believe, is the sister of...
The twin sister of Xavier.
Twin sister of Xavier. I've heard that before, the whole trying to kill him in the womb thing, so I don't think that's like a new addition to this storyline. It's either from a comic or from another movie. I feel like I've heard
not the generic, oh, there's two twins, one's good and one's evil, and the evil one, even in embryo, tries to kill the twin. No, because like even I've heard this where Xavier's sister really did try and kill him in his womb. That's why he's disabled.
So, ultimately, why do I say that word so much?
It boils down to, how about that?
I like how you're just creating new things for me to say instead of that word.
But he keeps using the word ultimately. It's fine.
So it boils down to them confronting Cassandra, and she... Okay.
This is the second confrontation. Oh, no, first confrontation.
Yeah, first confrontation. By the way, we went straight into doing the play-by-play again. I want to go back to likes and dislikes. This fucking bitch...
Cassandra?
It has been a minute since we've seen a villain like that. Or I guess an antagonist. I'll use the word antagonist. Since we've seen an antagonist like that. That's what Kang should have been like in Quantumania. Yeah. She ripped poor Johnny's fucking skin right off and his bones just dropped and melted right to the ground.
We just saw flesh.
She destroyed him, dude.
A puddle. Pudding.
So this is later, but like I said, I'm just jumping on the likes and dislikes right now. I really don't want to do play-by-play here. We even find out later that she killed Magneto.
She killed Magneto, but the Magneto that came to the Void, that's why she has a henchman wearing Magneto's helmet, if I'm not wrong?
No, she melted the helmet. She destroyed it.
Then what helmet did Deadpool and Wolverine use later?
Juggernaut's
helmet that was Magneto's?
No, Juggernaut always has a helmet on.
Oh, well then it was... Okay. Anyway, she killed Magneto, but it was one version of Magneto, I guess, that came to the Void at that point in time.
And she destroyed the helmet. And supposedly, according to Gambit, she also killed the Silver Surfer, too?
Yeah, she killed a lot of people from the old Fantastic Four, because we got to see, like, Elektra from, like, the old X-Men and a few other different characters, too. There's a lot of cameos in this film. I'm just going to leave it at that. Too many. Cassandra's lair also being Ant-Man's deceased enlarged body is fucking hilarious. Yeah. I was trying to tell you this in theaters, but before Ant-Man went big for Endgame?
Yeah, he goes big in Endgame and in Civil War.
Okay, well, I guess Civil War is the first time he does it, so... if you really want to go back and think, I guess Ant-Man at one point gets sent to the Void, but it's because he's too big and I guess he can't shrink down. But I also would like to think that his corpse got sent to the Void because it was just too large to really do anything. Since whenever he was about to enlarge himself the first time in Civil War, he even says this will either be really successful or I'm going to kill myself. Yeah. One of the two. And we got to see Cassandra just make camp in Ant-Man's old... Yeah, in his carcass, his actual carcass.
And you kind of forget that that's where a lot of like the dialogue and shit just takes place is in Homeboy's skull, like especially later on in the second
in his arms,
second confrontation. Yep. You know, so
Cassandra, I liked as an antagonist. To go back onto that point, there was times where I was sitting back and I was actually empathizing with her, and I actually felt for her. And at one point, I was like, "Wow, Marvel is really gonna do the thing where we sit back and I like the villain more than I like the protagonist, or I like the antagonist more than I like the protagonist, or if anything, like the antagonist is going to become the protagonist in my eyes." They did a good job of keeping me on my toes, because at one point I fucking hated her. At another point, I was slightly petrified of her, especially whenever I saw her fingers go through Deadpool's skull and just stay there.
Yeah, because she can't just go into someone's mind like Xavier. She actually has to touch them.
Has to make physical contact, but not this kind of contact. No. Her fingers were coming out of Deadpool's eyes and like actually holding onto his face and then just kind of like wiggling it around. Like she was wrist deep in him. I knew you were going to do that. By the way, for those who aren't watching, he's hysterically laughing.
Wrist deep.
Yes. And she even does it to like Wolverine too. Yeah. The thing is, she's like digging into these characters, like dark places, insecurities, really tearing them down.
Her powers were insane.
She could manipulate anything and everything around her in one way. She had like psychoactive powers, but at the same time, physical matter bended to her will. Because how the fuck are you going to remove skin off of somebody?
Yeah, I don't even think she touched him either. Right?
Nope, she just went.
Yeah.
And he got skinned. And she also did that with Wolverine whenever he tried to pounce. Like, she literally, instead of skinning him, she buried him. And all we saw were those, like, little prongs coming out.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine find their way out because we come to find out that if you don't side with Cassandra, you get eaten by Eliath.
Yeah, which is the thing from Loki season 2. And Loki season 1, I believe.
Season 1, episode 6.
There you go.
I remember because of Deadpool. He actually says that.
Yeah, he does say it. So we got to see that again. That was cool for the people who are fans of Loki and stuff like that, the TVA. So it was interesting. Throughout the Void, we see a lot of cool little stuff. I like the fact that we saw, I think, like a Secret Wars comic book. We got to see the 20th Century Fox. You pointed out that there was a Spotify.
There was a Spotify emblem, like, kind of breaking down. No longer green, gray. So it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
There was also Nice Pool that we ran into. There was a Honda Odyssey that was in the mix of there too, which is a running joke of the film, mind you.
I actually liked the second fight too. It didn't have as much emphasis as the first one for me, but you can definitely tell that this was a fight that was like they needed to do this because they needed to get out whatever they had towards each other. Like, because Deadpool really just wants to he wants to feel needed and he wants that, and then Wolverine just wants to fucking die. So it was a combination of this. It was a disaster, if you will.
And I loved it. Like, I love the fact that even the way that the camera was panning off at the end made it seem like the two of them were like fucking in the car, and even Deadpool before that whole panel away says like, I changed my mind about the Odyssey. The Odyssey fucks hard. Yeah, like it was pretty funny to see them break apart the car from the inside out, but it still be functional enough for them to sleep in until the morning after. Yeah. I guess that's whenever they get pulled over by X-23.
No, I guess they fell asleep.
They fell asleep
during the fight, and then X-23 pulls up Laura and pretty much drives them to the, I guess, hideout that they're at. And that's where we get introduced to Elektra. We get introduced to Gambit, who's portrayed by Channing Tatum. And then we get introduced to
Blade.
Motherfucking Blade, man. I couldn't react the way I really wanted to in the theater because I am a little shy, but I wanted to scream when I saw him. Yeah. Blade is one of
people did.
Blade is one of my favorite characters that I've ever seen in an action film. And to see him back, still looks good in all black, man.
He looks good for his age. Not just for his age, he just looks good in general.
Man, it was so dope to see him. And he had a lot of his cool catchphrases. Elektra was pretty cool too, even though I don't really remember her too often. I do remember her and Daredevil having their little thing back then.
They always have their little thing.
Yeah.
Could be a TV show or movie.
Yeah. No one likes to talk about that Daredevil movie though.
No one will talk about that Daredevil movie.
By the way, speaking of which, we don't like to talk about that Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, but when they mentioned that Cassandra also killed Daredevil, and he goes, "Oh man," and then Elektra goes, does that mean it was Ben Affleck's Daredevil that she killed probably?
Ben Affleck's Daredevil, and this was probably after the fallout that Elektra and Daredevil have. So I'm sure she either had just broken up, or like they had just broken up, or she found a way to move on in one way or form.
The idea of Ben Affleck's fucking Daredevil trying to square up with Cassandra is hilarious to me, bro. Because at least with Silver Surfer, the intergalactic fucking terrorist, the guy who was working for Galactus and who can also fight off like celestial beings. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, Magneto, that makes sense. Yeah. Prime Mutant, Daredevil, bro.
It's okay. He's blind. He can see everything. I'm such a dick. Anyway,
she probably. I don't mean in a literal way, but she probably fucked him so hard, bro. Like, fingers in the face. Oh, you used to be able to see.
You used to be able to see. Let me make you see again.
And then skin just right off the bone. She probably destroyed him mentally and physically.
Probably like picked him apart piece by piece until he was sitting there like shaking and just saying, "Kill me."
Oh my god.
Knowing her and how she's like now, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, That's a
Deadpool.
Deadpool devises like a little Avengers plot. At the meantime, Hugh Jackman is like talking a lot of shit, but he
Drinking all of Gambit's liquor.
yes, he puts together a little speech. Everyone wants to, at least be remembered because that's what happened to the universe. They were forgotten.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a chance to save their universe, really.
Poor Blade.
Yeah, that was sad when he said that. He was like, I didn't have a chance to fight for it.
Yeah.
So everyone joins together. They're gonna go take them out. Of course, this is when we also find out what happened to Wolverine's universe. I'll go ahead and let you tell the story because he explains it to Laura, aka X-23.
Yeah, so Hugh's just kind of off to the side doing his own thing, or I guess Logan, if you will. And Laura comes up and has a conversation to really connect with Logan. She even tells him that, hey, you're not so different from the one that I know or from the one that I'm familiar with. He was an asshole. He was mean. He was a drunk, but he also found the time and the energy to go out and help others too. Not out loud, but you could pick up on that feeling, if you will. And she was the only one who really got through to him because, it seemed that Deadpool was really trying for a while. I think another character was also saying how, he's a pretty decent guy, but he was still holding on to that handle, as if his life depended on it. And after that conversation, for the first time, we hear what, Logan essentially is trying to debunk what Laura told him by explaining exactly what happened, which is there was a time where his group needed him. They needed saving. And instead of him going to help out, he just kind of ignored it and let them get killed. I think we come to find out, or later on down the film, Cassandra almost makes it seem like he was the one who killed his teammates to begin with. Not that he necessarily was silencing out their voices, but I could also be mistaken on that.
I was very confused ultimately.
But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It happens. It's okay.
You talk, bro. I'm done.
Okay. But anyway, Logan essentially opens up. I'm gonna believe Logan's story, which is essentially that he tried to help, but mentally he wasn't there, so he decided not to help, and now he regrets it for the rest of his life. Now, whether he did or didn't kill his group, we'll find out whenever we watch it another time.
Because I know he said humans for sure when he was telling this part of the story. So
yeah.
Which there are humans who... that was the whole plot point of X-Men 2. It's just...
humans don't like the mutants.
It's kind of crazy to me that all the humans would have decimated the entire school, but with Cyclops there. But neither.
No, when you're over... Yeah. I get it. People have a lot of power, but also if you have enough bodies to be there and the mutants don't want to hurt the humans, but the humans want to hurt the mutants, then you can also see where that comes into play. Yeah. But I haven't seen the X-Men film, so I don't know how everybody operates. This is just me kind of applying my own logic to it. Also a different variant too, different timelines. So. Yeah. So who knows? These humans could have been super powered or something with some suits. Essentially. But after that talk, I think Laura kind of just says the right words to him, which is it's not a matter. It doesn't matter what you did before. It's what matters what you do now. Or essentially saying you are that person, but you are also a hero too. The bar that she drops on him because he says, "I'm not a hero. I'm not your guy. I'm not the right guy, or I'm the wrong guy." Yeah. And she says, "You always were the wrong guy." Yeah. Yeah. So that just kind of makes him sit back and think. The crew pulls out and they drive to Cassandra's lair, if you will, and that's where the big fight is starting to happen. But I love that fight a lot, man. That seeing everybody go crazy and go ham and just tear other people apart. New characters, old characters, everything else in between. And Logan also popping out of the Odyssey from the trunk at the very end and helping out as well. That was all really good. Seeing Gambit fight was also pretty dope too. I want to say by my first watch of the film, by this part of the movie, I could really understand what he was saying. He was constantly switching back and forth between French and English. Yeah. Very, very, very heavy French Louisiana, New Orleans type of accent, which I thought was fucking hilarious. Deadpool even was talking about how he needs to go talk to his dialect coach.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Like, who's your dialect coach? The one for the Minions or something like that?
I swear, like, I never thought I would need to see a film where Ryan Reynolds and Channing Tatum were in the same set, but nah, I do, and I need more. I think the rest of the gang is, like, holding off the rest of Cassandra's crew while Wolverine and Deadpool run up. It seems like the two of them are slightly winning Cassandra over, but then she comes to find out about the Time Ripper, escapes the void, goes back. Deadpool and Wolverine figure out a way to go back, and the two of them need to save everything that has to do with time and space, because Cassandra's ultimate plan is to make only the void the only timeline that exists.
Yeah.
So Deadpool and Wolverine go back, and they need to save the world.
And that's what leads to, I guess, the actual climax, because you would think that would be the climax.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
But by the way, Blade's action was fire. I love
Seeing
that.
him fight.
I have to show you a Blade fight, actually. I know I could just show you the movie, but I think if I show you the fight, you're actually going to be like, okay, I got to watch this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had that famous line, some motherfuckers always trying to skate up hill or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's yeah. I love Blade so much. But that all leads to, like what she said, Cassandra getting, I guess, informed about what the Time Ripper is, and she doesn't kill Logan and Deadpool over them sparing her and everything. And then she goes to that Paradox universe, which I guess takes place in the Deadpool universe, because that's where
it's either 1066 or 1016 universe. It's one of those.
Because
timelines.
I was very interested about that. I guess maybe that's where he was building it, because the Time Ripper was downstairs, right?
Mr. Paradox had the Time Ripper downstairs, but Cassandra had made it back in time. Paradox knew exactly that Cassandra was coming back, which was pretty ironic. And when Deadpool and Wolverine come, that's whenever Paradox shares how they need to stop the Time Ripper.
I guess that makes sense that the Time Ripper has to be where the universe is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the whole point.
But at the same time, I don't think it's within the same universe. I think it's a subsection of that universe. Like he even said in the beginning, I don't want to babysit a timeline dying on its own. So he was probably stationed just right outside to where he doesn't have to feel the fallout.
Well, no, they were fighting around the street where the blind owl's at, his roommate Deadpool. Then also his friend from Drive Max pulls up and saves him.
Then it's probably within the universe, just somewhere like sub-levels, which I thought was like pretty interesting, because I didn't think the TVA operated like that.
But then again, it might just be that the Time Ripper specifically needs to be where it's going to destroy the universe.
Probably.
Yeah,
because it was almost done. I think the way that Paradox had made it seem was that it was essentially finished, and all they needed to do now is activate it. But before he could activate it, Cassandra showed up.
Which, by the way, the fight scene, and I do like this a lot, but I've been seeing people criticize it. What did you think about the Deadpool fight scene that people thought they were ripping off Old Boy, the hallway scene? I didn't. I feel like, I don't get me twisted, I love Old Boy, very good action film, but I don't know if it popularized it in cinema, but like that camera angle of like following along is not really new. Like,
no, I've seen it a lot,
especially in beat 'em up video games like Street to Rage. Like it's a very common like angle to. It's not common, but it's not like unheard of.
It's more popularized.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen it in Daredevil. I've seen it.
Well, Old Boy came before Daredevil, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's what I mean, that there's other forms of media out there that carry it. There's also even, like, Super Mario Bros., dude, where they also do it. But I get it. It's a cameo to the fact that the game is a 2D game. I liked it. I didn't really have any, like, gripes or
I didn't think they were ripping off
dislikes.
Old Boy either. I just thought, like...
Or even, like, John Wick. John Wick had a scene like that, too.
Yeah.
But each of them made it their own, if you will. Because, like, Daredevil's is like side panels and then also disappearing into rooms and then coming back out.
Like
John Wick's
and stuff,
is constantly running through a certain setting that they have, but still trying to kill each other. And then you have Deadpool here, where there's multiple different Deadpools, and Lady Deadpool is actually leading the whole gang, plus like Kid Deadpool and Baby Deadpool. Which I guess there was a rumor running around that Ryan Reynolds' kids and family were the front runners of the Deadpool group gang, if you will, in the beginning.
I'm not too sure, but I did actually find out that the cowboy Deadpool was Matthew McConaughey. That was voiced by him. Which now that makes sense. I can hear it in his voice now.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. They had a lot of big names in there, but I liked that scene. I actually genuinely enjoyed it, seeing all of them get annihilated by Wolverine and Deadpool. Hell, even right before Wolverine pulls his mask over and finally has that fully comic accurate outfit
What
on.
you think about the mask? I've seen people say they like it and dislike it.
It looked like a realistic version of the one from the comics. It looked like something a cosplayer would wear at any convention. Not in a bad way either, by the way. I admire cosplayers immensely, so I feel like it was pretty good.
I feel like I like it, but I do think they were testing the waters with it. Because if you notice, he didn't have it on us at the very end of the film.
No.
So I can see them doing something where, like, you know how Captain America's outfit constantly changed?
Yeah.
How in the first Avenger it started out like very colorful, very comic-like.
Yeah.
And then in the Winter Soldier it became more realistic and like a military outfit. I can see in the next 5 or so years when they bring Wolverine back, it'll probably be a different outfit.
Probably, because I mean, he even said that he didn't really put on the... Because like Deadpool made a comment about the mask, and then Wolverine replied back by saying he doesn't put it on unless killing's really about to start. So
yeah,
it could just be that he didn't really take the fight seriously up until that point, even with Deadpool earlier in the films.
Maybe you can imply that, yeah. So, good power scaling narrative there. We then get the scene where Cassandra is downstairs with a Time Ripper that leads to her wanting to take out all the universes and just rule over the void.
She's unraveling it, literally.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the Loki season 2
That's
stuff.
how it's supposed to be,
Yeah. So that's happening, and Deadpool and Wolverine have to stop it. They have to like join hands and everything to, I guess, connect those 2 pillars.
Which an iconic song plays. I don't remember the name of the
Like
song.
a Prayer.
Like a Prayer.
Madonna.
Yeah, that plays while they're doing it, and I loved it.
Yeah, we get to see a lot of like inside, like what they're thinking about and what's going through their heads as they're doing this. And
because mind you, and sorry to interrupt, Paradox mentioned that the Time Ripper works by combining matter and antimatter. So you have Wolverine handling one, and then you have Deadpool handling another. So it's a lot of force to try and manipulate.
And they're supposed to die at this moment too.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the build up to it, why we're seeing like not like their life flash before their eyes, but we're seeing like just glimpses into what they're thinking about during this moment. And a huge explosion happens, Cassandra dies, they save the universe, TVA shows up, Paradox tries to spin the narrative, doesn't work. Logan and Wade have survived. Otherwise, we're Wolverine and Deadpool. So
yeah, they figured out a way to walk out, and it turns out the reason why they survived is because it wasn't one person, it was 2.
Yeah.
That did it. You have this cute little we forgot to mention that the reason why the Deadpool stopped coming after Wolverine and Deadpool is because of Peter.
Yeah.
Peter comes around, and then I guess the head of the TVA is also like crushing on Peter too because he's wearing the Deadpool outfit.
They can't save Wolverine's universe, by the way, like they speculated.
Yeah. Because they thought about it. I forgot her name, but she essentially says that
the one from Loki.
Yeah. She essentially says that if we go back and reverse things that happened in his timeline, then we wouldn't have the Logan we have now. So honestly, I don't think it's for the better. If anything, it'll be for the worse. And that's when the movie kind of like wraps itself up, and you have Wolverine and Deadpool kind of carrying their own life within the universe that Deadpool is in.
Yeah.
They even make the joke about going and grabbing shawarma like how they did in the first Avengers film. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of cute little meta jabs and like meta jokes in there.
Exactly. And everything wraps up. We get a post-credit scene, and the post-credit scene is...
It finally explains the scene of Johnny and Deadpool and what seemed like Deadpool was talking for Johnny, but that's not really the case.
No.
Deadpool is just repeating exactly what Johnny said.
Johnny said everything. I can't sit
from
here
like
and
the
repeat
cinnamon ring to her being a crazy ass bitch.
So it wasn't Deadpool's fault that he died.
Nope. It was Johnny's. And I didn't think Johnny had that big of a potty mouth.
And now looking back at it, Wolverine actually never disagreed with Deadpool.
No.
He just like, why do you like, almost like, why are you tattling on him? Not so much like, why are you making shit up?
Yeah. Because this Wolverine was not afraid to call out Deadpool whenever he was in the wrong or whenever he was pulling shit out of his ass. At that scene, all he said was, why the fuck are you saying this?
Yeah.
And then he even went off to say, like, you got the poor kid killed. And then Deadpool was like, he got himself killed.
Yeah.
I loved it. I, like, honestly, after watching it a second time, I think I would give it a solid 9.
I think I'm with you, yeah. Solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
And mine might change on a second rewatch, but that was her second rewatch with me. So if I rewatch it again, maybe it might change. But as of right now, 9 out of 10. That was a great theater experience. One of our best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 9 out of 10.
Go watch it if you haven't watched it. And if you're listening to this and you haven't watched the movie, what the fuck are you doing? Respectfully.
Oh, yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. But, I mean, I would hope and would like to think that Marvel continues this momentum and that they take notes. Even if they are to throw new material in, by all means do it. But use the crutch of the older characters, especially with the kind of hole that y'all dig yourselves into. Because most people are not excited whenever it comes to Marvel films anymore. They only go watch it because they want to make sure they're up to date.
Yeah.
Or at least from what I know.
Well, with Fantastic Four coming out next year. And...
Again?
Huh?
Again?
What?
Fantastic Four again? They were like the story that we've seen on multiple occasions?
I don't know. Is it the one with Pedro Pascal? I mean, I've been seeing that.
No, I haven't seen that. I mean, I knew he got casted as Reed Richards, but that's it.
Yeah. All right. But anyways, with that coming out too and everything, so should be fun. Secret Wars. I know Doomsday is actually
Doomsday for sure.
2026.
Yeah.
Year after. So hopefully we're alive by then.
I pray.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to Slashers and Sync. Make sure to follow us on Spotify. We're also available on Apple Music as well, and your other favorite podcast apps, whatever you use. And check us out on YouTube. Links will be to all of this stuff. Just follow our website, and that'll take you to everything that you need to get us on. So anyways, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.